Welcome to Theme Time Television, the audience participation program where you can send in your creative works based on the weekly themes of our program. This week it's Chapter 3, Part 3 of the Passover special. And this third section I want to dedicate to the children of Israel, because Passover means pass over. God passed over the houses of Israel while there was death and destruction going on. Why? Because he wanted to bring them out of Egypt back home where he wanted them. And it's something that I know I personally felt years ago, which I'll explain a bit later. But maybe you should ask, you probably ask yourself, well, what does this mean, chosen people? Aren't we all the same? Well, yes and no, and I'll explain the difference. Now, we have a tradition, according to the Kabbalah, that this Torah is the blueprint of creation. In other words, God looked into this blueprint and said, okay, I need a world, proof, and now I'm going to wait for someone in that world to distinguish themselves through a series of tests and trials to determine that they actually, that I would be able to give this gift to them because I know that I can rely on them. I know that they will recognize the value of what this is, and they will keep it. And he waited, and sure enough, Abraham came on through a series of trials, and he said, okay, I'm giving you this gift because I trust that you're going to keep it and that you will value it. And then it was passed down to his family, and eventually there was a covenant, a contract between the two of them. And so today, even if you're not into it, you don't connect to it, sorry, but deal is done, and you are part of this contract. Can't escape it. We tried in Germany, it just doesn't work. So enjoy it. It's a blessing, not a curse. Anyway, the concept of chosen is about choice. And the only difference between Jewish people and the rest of the world is that we have this. That's all. That's the only difference, that we have this, that we were given this, okay, and that we value it. Now, I have a very dear friend of mine. I have only a handful of close friends, and one of my best friends who's not Jewish, and he always tells me this great story that when he was a kid, he said he grew up in a home of hillbillies, and he ran away from home when he was 14, went to the big city, put himself through art school, filled up a room full of books. I mean, he became a self-made man. Why? Based on choices. He made who he is today because of his choices. So choice is a huge thing. Now you might say, well, okay, fine, we all make choices, but everybody's the same. No, it's not necessarily true. It's yes and no. We're not the same. And Rabbi Spear said an amazing thing to me once, a good friend of mine. He said, there's a difference between equality and unity. We're not equal. Everybody's different. Everyone has different talents and abilities. And that's what's beautiful about the world, that we're not the same. But unity is something different. Unity means that you can unify all those different parts and put them together, and it works together harmoniously. For example, I'm a musician. If I have a bass player in the band, and he's like thinking he's a guitar player, and he's playing all these solos all over the place, and not keeping the bass, not keeping the foundation. I mean, if a bass player doesn't know that bass is foundation, he doesn't get that, then he doesn't get anything. I mean, it's like, and I argue with bass players all the time, like, hey, you gotta stop playing so many notes because it's bad for you and it's bad for the rest of us. You don't sound good, we don't sound good because of it. Take two notes, two simple notes, leave space, be a bass player, and you're gonna shine more, we're gonna shine more, we'll all shine together better. You wanna be a guitar player? You can be a guitar player. Get a different instrument, learn guitar. You wanna be sitting front row center? You can do that. It costs more money, you have to pay the price. You don't want to pay the price, you want to be in the show, sit farther back, no problem. That's also good. It's all relative to who you are, the choices you make, what you want to do in the world. Anyway, so let's get back to why was I saying all of this? Passover. God wanted to bring the Jewish people back home. Now, I have a personal story, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I am here in Israel today because of Corona 17 years ago. Yeah, that's right. You may, look around and say wow, this seems like a plague, doesn't it? Well, yeah, it certainly does. It's pretty obvious that God is changing the world around. And by the way, it's interesting to note that in the Passover Seder, there's not one mention of Moses. Moses is like his whole life history was the Jewish people. He lived for the Jewish people, right? Not even a footnote, nothing about Moshe. And the commentators say, why is that? Because we should know that what happened there could not have happened by any flesh and blood person. God changed the world around. He did something different to the world in order to demonstrate something to bring his people home, or the Jewish people home. He did something unique. He changed the world around that a normal person couldn't do. And that's why his name is in there. And it's all about God pulling the Jewish people out, even though they were at a low level and they weren't deserving of it. And it's very similar to our own history today. And this timing, like a month from now, is Israel's Independence Day. And it's the same thing. You've never heard of a nation that was born out of another nation. Nobody has that history that they came out of another nation or taken out into a desert and meets God. Same thing in our own generation. You know, Israel is here. All of these people came from after the Holocaust, were pulled out and brought back here. And in the same scenario that there were people here also before, and there was the same scenario. Now, why was that scenario set up that way? That's a topic for another show. But the point I'm making is, what's the point I'm not making? Yes, so that's probably Spirit used to say, what's the point you're not making? So God pulled us out, it's Passover, and I was pulled out. I personally feel like I was pulled out of Egypt. I was pulled out and brought back home. And that's really the meaning of Passover, that God did all these miracles and changed the world to bring his people home. And I want to share that with you because I know what you're going through over there, because I went through it as well. I'm here, as I mentioned, because of Corona 17 years ago. And I want to explain to you why. For years I wanted to come to Israel. Everybody said you need a lot of money. I tried to save the money, you know. Then all of a sudden September 11th happened, and within September 11th, it's like I saw all of these plagues in one. You had people were going through this debris of darkness that you couldn't move in. You had the Nile River was the center of commerce. Right there in the center of commerce, you had the plague of blood. Everybody was giving blood. Even Arafat was giving blood. The death of the firstborn. You know, the CEOs of all the biggest companies in the world, dead. You know, in the story of Egypt, you have the frogs came out of the river and went into the palace of Pharaoh, and soon after you had anthrax, and all of a sudden all these frog masks in the White House. All of these plagues, and I was seeing, and the one that hit me the most, that brought me here, was Corona. You say, well, there was no Corona. Yes, there was. The thing that hit me the most was that 10 minutes after those planes hit, every airport in America was closed. It doesn't matter if you had $1 million or $5 million, you couldn't get out. And that's what hit me. Even if I had millions of dollars, there could be a plague one day and I wouldn't be able to get out. So I need to go now. And I escaped. And I felt like I already was too late, that I missed the boat and I couldn't get out. But I felt like I just escaped. It was just before SARS and Toronto. So I know how you're probably feeling too. But don't worry, you can get out. You will get out. Call up the embassy and try and escape. Try and get out. And the hardest part is just putting your stuff away. Because like for me, I didn't have a lot of money. I just had my books and my stuff. But just getting rid of stuff, putting it in boxes, and you know, it's not easy to do that. And the Passover story, they had to leave in a rush. That's why we have the matzah, because they didn't have time. It's the same idea. So go with it, and you'll see in the middle of the darkness is also light. And you know, if you're part of the people of Israel, come home. If you're a friend of the people of Israel, encourage them to go. You'll be blessed as well. They said that if you bless Israel, God blesses you. And the opposite is also true. Anyway. And I was reading on Passover. This is from Ezekiel 37:12. Therefore prophesy and say to them, I open your graves. This is Ezekiel's looking at this valley full of bones that come to life. He says, I open your graves and I raise you from the graves, O my people. I shall bring you to the land of Israel. Then you shall know that I'm Hashem. When I open your graves and when I raise you from your graves, O my people, I shall put my spirit into you. I give you a new heart. And you shall live, and I shall set you on your soil. And you shall know that I'm Hashem, and I've spoken and I have done. So it's basically, we're seeing that now. Israel is these bones that have come back to life. Be part of it. Like, I'm talking too much. This is leading to a song called "It's Time to Come Home," and just a little footnote. My father, Oliver Sholem, he used to say to me, Ronnie, enough with your message songs. Nobody wants to hear a message. They want to, a love song and dance and stuff. Why don't you write a song for Anne Murray? She was a famous Canadian singer. About homecoming or something. I said, you know what? It's a good idea. I think I will. So I wrote this song. Dedicated to Anne Murray. It's called "It's Time to Come Home." Hope you enjoy it.
When the sleeping volcano starts grumbling and your kingdom is shattered by a stone.
This is Theme Time Television. Hope you like that last song, Time to Come Home, written for Anne Murray. She didn't record it, so I recorded it. So you might think that that was a sort of a prophetic song, but it was written actually before September 11th, and it's not really prophetic because there's it depends on what you're reading and what you're open to. I wrote another song, which I'm going to play for you now, about 2 months ago, when there was a lot of rain happening in Israel. There was floods everywhere, so I wrote a song about the flood, which is also kind of talking about now, which I wrote 2 months ago. But it's not, again, it's not prophetic because it's just about what you're what type of books you're reading and what you're aware of. One of the lines in this next song was coined by my friend Shmuel. We were talking about people in America, like Jews in America, who are so disconnected from Israel. We're living in such a time that this is a dream that our grandparents had. That Israel should come back to life, and the way he said they're on the wrong side of history. And I said that's a good line for a song. So I wrote the song. It's called "Down in the Flood." Hope you enjoy it. And again, this is, even though these are songs of doom, they're not really doom. It's hopeful because it's to push you to do something about it and come back home. It's not too late. This song is called "Down in the Flood."
Better leave while you're still free. You're on the wrong side of history. What will it take till you see? While you're dead or daily counting, you hold your hands and sing, saying it will never happen here. So then why is it happening? And it's raining in the valley, and it's raining up on the hill, and the weatherman says it's dry, but everyone knows it's raining still. Oh, Mom, don't get stuck down in the mud. What good's your gold gonna do if you go down? Down in the flood. No good deed goes unpunished. You get 20 years for love. And the more you turn your head away, the more the sharks demand your blood. But you can't complain to the government like they did in Pharaoh's time. But they don't remember the good you did. In fact, I tell you now, it's a crime. And it's raining in the valley, and it's raining on the hill, and the weatherman says it's dry, but everyone knows it's raining still. Oh, Mama, don't stand idly by your brother's blood. What good's your gold gonna do if you go down? Down in the flood. Oh, can you hear the whistle blow? One man's escaping tonight, another one was too slow. The ceiling of the border, don't miss the last call. Your money ain't gonna be worth nothing when the rain starts to fall. Or get out while you're still free. You're on the wrong side of history. What'll it take till you see? Every low voice is silenced are called insane because you have delayed. Even your children, they've all strayed. Or the sinkhole that you're standing on, the crack in your palace wall. Don't you understand? It's all about to fall. And it's raining in your bubble, in the White House up on the hill. And the weatherman says it's sunny, but everyone knows it's raining still. Oh, mama, don't get stuck down in the mud. What good's your gold gonna do if you go down? Down in the flood. Say what good's your gold gonna do if you go down? Down in the flood.
We're back. That was Down in the Flood, and again, I was just saying that these songs, you know, even though they're kind of stirring you up a bit, it's the idea is to help you to come back home. It's not too late. Call up the embassy, get home, put your things in boxes, and come back home. Now's a good time. You know, start working towards it. Also, I have a friend, Yakutiel, who is setting up places for people that are single or families that don't have a place, you know, emergency place to get set up, and you know, if you need a place to come in and look, you know, you're working from home now anyway. You can see it doesn't matter where you are. You can put your body here, back on the soil here, and still find a way to make money, and you'll survive. I survived. I'm doing the same thing I was doing now when I was in Canada, you know, and I feel like $1 million though because I'm here. And also, just want to mention that this, you know, that song, what you might say, well, that's sort of prophetic, but again, I want to tell you something that happened 11 years before September 11th, okay? There was a man, a rabbi, that was murdered, assassinated at Ground Zero, very close to Ground Zero. 11 years before September 11th, by the same people from September 11th. His name was Rabbi Meir Kahana, Shem Yakum Damo. And you know why he was in America? He was in America for a project called Zero, Project Zero. What was the acronym? Zionist Emergency Rescue Operation, Project Zero. So it's not new. He was murdered right at Ground Zero, trying to say, come back home. I got it September 11th. Get it now. Come home. Now, enough of the soapbox and the, you know, and the saber rattling. Now it's time for a little bit of love and honey. This was sent in by my mother. I know it's a rough time right now. We'll get over it. And this was sent to me from my mom, and I want to send it out to you. Sung by a friend of mine, Mr. Al Jolson. Al?
Wait a minute. You ain't heard nothing yet. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a little song I think you all know. Will you start playing it nice and soft, boys? April. Though April showers may come your way, they bring the flowers that bloom in May. And if it's raining, have no regrets, because it is raining. Rain, you know, is raining violets. And where you see clouds upon the hill, you soon will see crowds of daffodils. So keep on looking for a bluebird and listening for its song whenever April showers come along. Oh, let's. And where you see clouds on the hills, look, they're not clouds, no, they're not clouds, they're crowds of daffodils. So keep on looking for a bluebird and listening for its song. Did you hear that note, Mr. Melchior? Whenever April showers come along.
That's about all the time we have for the show today, and I'm going to leave you with one last song. The theme, again, this part 3 is Come Home, and this song I wrote back in the old country.
Television.
It goes, bye bye Babylon, I can't keep leading you on, though my flesh still melts at the touch of your hand. It's just not the promised land. Enjoy the last song, and see you next week. Goodbye from Theme Time Radio, and send in your stuff. Participate. Let's put the order of the world back. Be well, be healthy. Love to everybody.
Bye-bye, Babylon, I can't keep leading you on, though my flesh still melts at the touch of your hand. It's just not the promised land. I'm leaving all of this behind. Nothing here is really mine. I got to find my oasis in the sand, back in the promised land. There's a judge and there's a trial. I'm hoping to exchange my file. If I can prove that I can walk and I can stand within the promised land. I'm just a ghost, that's what I become. Too much to taste will make you numb. Got to return my body to my soul if I still can. She's waiting